Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and taking some time out of your Tuesday. My name is Caroline Love. I am the Strategic Initiatives Coordinator here at MCE, and we're so excited to have you at MCE's 4th Annual Certify and Amplify Virtual Workshop. Next slide, please. Just some logistics that this workshop is being recorded and that we will be sharing the recording, our speaker presentations, and a short survey with you after via email. So please keep a lookout for those. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please add them in the Q&A box so that we can address them at the end. We can also unmute you if you choose the raise your hand option at the end so you can ask your question aloud. And if you have any technical issues, please put your question in the Q&A chat and I'll address that. Or you can email me and hopefully I will see that. Next slide, please. We will be offering live transcription during this webinar. So if you would like to have closed captions, you can click on the CC box down below, and you can also remove the captions from there if you would like to turn them off. We will also have live translations through interpretations live from Santiago, Chile, from our very own Alexandra McGee. So if you'd like to access those in Spanish, you can click the world icon that says interpretation, and then you can listen in Spanish. And you can also click mute original audio if you wish to only hear the Spanish. Next slide, please. Today, we'll be starting with an overview of who MCE is and other CCAs, and introducing different contracting opportunities through our agency. Next, we'll be having Bezowit Delgasa give her perspective from the CPUC, California Public Utility Commission, and the regulatory perspective there. Next, we'll have Wayne Gross from the Department of General Service in California from the Small Business and Disabled Veteran-Owned Business Enterprises certification. Lastly, we'll have the wonderful Teresa Rubio Zorzi, who will be speaking about advocacy and networking perspective, and of course, the Q&A at the end. Next slide, please. MCE has been around since 2010 when we were founded as the first community choice aggregator in the state. We are a corporation, an agency hoping to provide more renewable energy at affordable rates to our customers throughout Marin, all of Napa, and most of Solano and Contra Costa counties, including the recently enrolled Fairfield, City of Fairfield. Next slide, please. MCE is responsible for sourcing your energy through our own means and our own production, like MCE Solar One in Richmond, California, and other CCAs. We're very proud to have more renewable energy. So that's what we provide, the sourcing for that. And then the delivery is all done through PG&E or the investor-owned utility in your area. They maintain the power lines and send your bills. And then, of course, you get to benefit from the customer as a choice to have your energy from someone who is supplying more renewable option at an affordable price. Next slide, please. Today, there are 24 community choice aggregators throughout the state, including the newly formed Santa Barbara County Energy Choice in Southern California. And together, we serve more than 11 million customers throughout the state. Next slide, please. MCE has been proud to partner with diverse suppliers since our founding, and we've highlighted our recent suppliers in the 2022 Supplier Diversity report, and we've done another one for 2021. Due to Proposition 209 in California, as a public agency, we are slightly limited in our ability to support directly diverse suppliers, because Proposition 209 states that all public agencies, including public universities, are not able to have affirmative action policies or take any sort of identity factor, such as race, ethnicity, or gender, into account when making contracting decisions. So we are not looking at the type of business that you are owned by officially when we are, or at all when we are considering contracts, but we do like to report this, and we are very proud of our diversity, because we know that that means that we're serving what our customers need, and that we have both the best agencies under our wing. So we'd love to inform our business communities about the Clearinghouse so that you know and can get those contracts through many utility companies, from CCAs to investor-owned utilities. Next slide, please. You can see our current solicitations on this on the MCE website, which I'll put the link for in a moment. And there's many contracting opportunities that will come up over time. And we have requests for proposals here, and you'll see other CCAs and investor-owned utilities have similar pages on their website. So if there's nothing now, you can subscribe to our emails and get notified when there is something that matches your business. Next slide, please. I will be turning it over in a moment to Besawit Delgasa, who is from the California Public Utilities Commission, the CPUC. She's been with us, this is her 4th year, and we're really excited to hear about the perspective that she brings from this agency. So take it away, Besawit.
Thank you, Caroline, for the warm introduction, and thank you, MCE, for hosting this event. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here today to provide some background on the Commission's Supplier Diversity Program. This program was established through the Commission's General Order 156. I will also talk about how to get certified with the Supplier Clearinghouse and the value of the certification. Next slide. First, a little bit about the California Public Utilities Commission, that is commonly referred to as CPUC. It's a state agency that regulates privately owned electric, natural gas, telecommunications, water, railroad, rail transit, and passenger transportation companies. It designs policies and issues regulations to ensure regulated utility companies provide safe, clean, reliable services and infrastructure at a reasonable rate. The Commission also promotes the health of California's economy through programs such as a Supplier Diversity Program that contributes to the diversification and resiliency of California's economy by promoting and advocating for the increased utilization of women, minority, disabled veteran, LGBT, and persons with disabilities businesses. For convenience, I'm going to collectively refer to these businesses as diverse businesses moving forward. Next slide. The Commission Supplier Diversity Program is one of its most successful programs that has been around for over 30 years. The program requires regulated utilities, electric service providers, and community choice aggregators, usually referred to as CCAs, such as MCE, to set up a supplier diversity program designed to promote and ensure the increased inclusion and utilization of diverse businesses in procurement activities and contracts. Utilities, electric service providers, and CCAs are also expected to encourage and work with their prime contractors to do the same and to track the dollar amounts spent with subcontractors that are diverse businesses. Annually, the utilities, electric service providers, and CCAs are required to submit a performance report for the year and a plan for the following year. In 2021, for example, the utilities spent over $12.3 billion with diverse businesses that represented about 31.4% of their total procurement spend in 2021. In addition, the Commission Supplier Diversity Program encourages other entities in the energy sector, such as solar and storage companies, to develop a program that accelerates the inclusion of diverse businesses in their supply chains. Our program also has an aspirational goals, 15% for minority businesses, 5% for women, 1.5% for disabled veteran businesses. Recently, in April 2022, a goal was established for LGBT, and it's going to be 0.5% for 2022, 1% for 2023, and 1% for 2024 and beyond. In this year, in 2022, the Commission also included persons with disabilities businesses in the program, but a goal hasn't been established yet. Next slide. For the Commission's direct to supply diversity programs, utilities, electric service providers, and CCAs will check if a business has verified its diverse status with the Supplier Clearinghouse and received a certification. So if you're looking to take advantage of the Commission Supplier Diversity Program, it's important to get certified with the Supplier Clearinghouse. The Supplier Clearinghouse is an agency created to certify diverse businesses under the direction of the Commission. It verifies the diverse status of minority, women, LGBT, and persons with disabilities, businesses, enterprises, and maintains a public database of certified businesses. The Supplier Clearinghouse does not certify disabled veteran businesses, but uses the certification of the California Department of General Services. So if you are already certified with DGS as a disabled veteran business, you are already part of the Supplier Clearinghouse public database. This database is used by utilities, electric service providers, CCAs, prime contractors, energy companies, and other entities to find diverse suppliers. Next slide. You may ask, what are the benefits of getting certified? Through certification, your business will be officially recognized as a diverse business, and this will help distinguish you in the marketplace you are competing in. I want to point out here that certification does not mean you are qualified for a contract with the utilities or the CCAs or electric service provider or other entities. It only means your business is a verified diverse business. As I mentioned earlier, when you are certified, your business will be available in the database companies use to find diverse businesses, which means your business visibility increases. When measuring the supplier diversity performance, utilities, CCAs as well, count only those procurement spends with businesses that are in the Supplier Clearinghouse database. So they will be looking for businesses that are certified with the Supplier Clearinghouse. Utilities and the Commission use the Supplier Clearinghouse database for marketing contract opportunities and events. Some of these events will help you connect and engage with the companies that are looking for diverse businesses, and it helps you connect, form, and build business relationships. Next slide. Certification with the Supplier Clearinghouse is free and online. It is renewed every 3 years. Once you apply, it may take about 4 weeks to process the application. Those that are eligible for certification are businesses that are at least 51% owned by minority, women, LGBT, or disabled persons or persons whose management and daily operations are controlled by the same individuals. Next slide. When you're ready to get certified, go to the Supplier Clearinghouse homepage at www.thesupplierclearinghouse.com. I have a screenshot here on this slide with the contact information. If you have any question or issues, the Supplier Clearinghouse has customer representatives ready to assist you. Make sure you connect with them. Next slide. I have some recommendations on this slide. After you get certified, register your business by going to each utility and CCA supplier registration online portal. Connect with the utility supplier diversity representatives who can help you access their supplier diversity programs and contracting opportunities. And finally, I highly encourage you to read the utilities and CCA's annual reports that you can find on the Commission Supplier Diversity website. These reports will help you understand their procurement process, areas of opportunities, who their prime contractors are, what they're procuring, what their future needs are, and et cetera. These reports are useful tools that provide in-depth information about the utilities and CCA's procurement habits, successes, and challenges. You can use them as part of your research. Next slide. This is all this concludes my presentation for today, and this is all I have. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about our supplier diversity program, feel free to reach out to me. With that, Caroline, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Bezoit. Pleasure to have you as always. All right, let's head to the next slide so I can introduce our next speaker, Wayne Gross, who is joining us for the first time from the California's Department of General Services in the Small and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Services Office. Wayne started his career in the United States Air Force and made his way up to a captain, and he has over 45 years of customer service experience. He is currently serving as a business outreach liaison in his department for the state of California, and he has a wealth of knowledge to share with all of us. So please go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. Today we're going to talk about doing business with the state of California. Next slide, please. Here is my information, wayne.d.gross@dgs.ca.gov, and my phone number, 279-946-8387. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So please call me, text me. You've got my information. Next slide. We have two goals with the state, a small business goal of 25% and a disabled veteran business enterprise or DVBE goal of 3%. Next slide. In fiscal year 2019-20, we did over $12 billion and 23.7% or $2.8 billion went to small businesses, and 3.8% or 336 million went to the DVBE community. Unfortunately, we don't have the data for last year. It's coming up, but unfortunately, we didn't meet our goal again. And I'll talk about that at the very end of my presentation. Next slide. So with the state, we have 3 certifications: small business for the purpose of public works, and our DVBE program. Next slide. Back in the 70s, we had an expression. It was called KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And so this is how we run our program. 5 requirements: independently owned and operated, can't be dominant in the field of operation. What that means is there's competition out there. And the principal offices have to be located here in California. This is a California program. We don't want the riffraff from Oregon or Arizona coming in. And the owners or officers, in case of a corporation, must be domiciled here in California. Next slide. And together with affiliates, the business has to be 100 or fewer employees and gross annual receipts of 16 million or less averaged over the last 3 tax years. Or if you're a manufacturer, it's 100 or fewer employees. There are no gross annual receipts required. And if you qualify, if you are under 5 million, you will automatically get a micro business certification, okay? And that's used on the local level. Next slide. 2 years ago, we added our public works small business requirements. Here again, independently owned and operated, can't be dominant in the field of operation, principal offices in California, and the owners or officers in the case of a corporation domiciled in California. Don't those sound familiar? Same as just the small business. Here's the big change. Next slide. Together, the business is 200 or fewer employees and gross annual receipts of 37 million or less averaged over the previous 3 tax years. Or if you're a manufacturer, you have to meet both the 200 and the gross annual receipts of 37 million. Now, if you are a small business and you are less than 100 employees or less than the average of 16 million, and you do public works, you don't have to get this public works certification. As long as you're small, you're not getting near the 100 or the 16 million, just keep the small business certification. Once you get close, then you will want to get the public works certification. Next slide. DVBE requirements. You have to be at least 10% service disabled and own at least 51% of the company. And if you are in a limited liability situation, it must be wholly owned by one or more disabled veterans. Next slide. And here's the big one. The daily business operations must be managed and controlled by one or more disabled veterans. The home office must be located here in the United States, and the disabled veterans must live here in California. Next slide. The benefits of certification. You have access to contract opportunities. Once you get certified, you establish a profile in Cali Procure so people can find you. There is a small bid preference and a DVBE incentive, which I'll explain. You'll have contacts with advocates. These are your new best friends. They are the gatekeepers to the agencies. We'll talk a little bit about prompt payment, Reciprocity Partners, the California Multiple Award Schedules, and the Small Business DVBE Emergency Registry. Next slide. Applying the small business preference. Next slide. We have bidder A and B. Next slide. Bidder A is non-certified. Next slide. He bids 100,000, bidder A. Bidder B bids 102. Just with that information, bidder A should win. But there is a written small business preference in the solicitation. Next slide. So the administrator would take 5% of the lowest non-certified bid. So 5% of 100,000. Next slide. Is 5,000. Next slide. Subtracts that from the certified bid. Next slide. Next slide. We have 97,000. So now bidder B has 97,000. Bidder A has 100. Bidder B wins. Now, next slide. Here's the good part about it. Next slide. You get it at the original $102,000, okay? It pays to get certified because it's free. Now, you won't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as this 5%. So my advice to you is to make sure that when you do put in a bid, that you dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that it's competitive. Next slide. Now for the DVBE incentive, it is again written into the solicitation. It's up to 5%. And we tell people that if you're a disabled veteran and you qualify for the small business certification, get them both. And here's one of the reasons. It's because if you have the DVBE incentive and the small business preference, you could get up to 10% in benefits. Next slide. The prompt payment. This is for small businesses only. Here's another reason if you're a DVBE and you qualify for the small business, okay? You give an undisputed invoice, you will get paid within 45 days. And if the agency is late, they are to automatically pay you a late fee. Next slide. The advocates, these are the gatekeepers to the agencies. They help you get solicitations. They help you with prompt payment, that if you're not getting paid, they can help you. And the advocates want to hear your 30-second elevator speech to include your full name, company name, your certification, and what you do. And then you send them your capability statement, a resume. Next slide. Reciprocity Partners. These are cities, counties, agencies, special districts that honor the small business DVBE and small business certifications. And if you go to our website, which I will show you, and the supplier diversity link for the CPUC is on our reciprocity. Even though they are not considered reciprocity partners, as a DVBE, you are automatically put into their database. I always tell DVBEs to go into the clearinghouse and make sure that your contact information and your federal employer ID number are correct. Next slide. The California Multiple Award Schedule. If you've ever heard of the GSA, General Services Administration, this is our version of it. The GSA is a 125-page application that takes the feds up to 1 year to get approved. Our program is 5 pages, and if you fill it out correctly, you could be approved within 24 hours. Obviously, ours is the wiser choice. Here's the gotcha. You gotta have a GSA. And so our people at CMAS will help you piggyback off an established GSA schedule. Why do I bring this to your attention? Your state certification is good for state agencies as reciprocity partners. CMAS is good for both of them, plus cities, counties, school districts, community colleges, the UC and the CSU system, all the people that have money. So my choice is to give you more opportunities. Next slide. Because of COVID and the Cal fires, we, number one, did not meet our small business goal, okay? And so we created a registry for emergencies. And this is for small businesses and DVs who can do the goods or services now, not 2 weeks from now or a month from now. You've got to be able to react immediately. And so, next slide. So this is our website, caliprocure.ca.gov. And I have 2 boxes highlighted. The top right one is to get certified. And the bottom one is for training and resources. And I'm going to click on the second one. Next slide. And I've highlighted the 4 items that I've talked about today, just to let you know where they are. Next slide. And so hopefully you've got an idea of how to do business with the state of California. Again, wayne.gross@dgs.ca.gov. Back to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Wayne. We're really excited to highlight opportunities for our small businesses in particular this year, in addition to other diverse businesses. All right, let's head to the next slide so I can introduce the wonderful Teresa Rubio Zorzi, who is coming to us with so much experience on all sides of the, from the business side to the industry side, and as an advocacy for for businesses. And she brings her experience as a veteran as well, and her experience now with Veteran Launch. So, all right, please give it up for our next speaker.
Welcome. Good afternoon. So everyone, my name is Teresa. Next slide, we can go ahead and get started. So you've heard from both Bezuit and Wayne, and they've covered some key objectives from the CPUC and the DGS side of things. I'm here to provide some perspective on how to align those objectives when seeking opportunities to work with utilities and grow your business. A lot of what we covered so far has been more of the certifications and how to get prepared to do business. And I'm going to talk through just, and then what? Once you're certified, what do you do next? So as mentioned, I have a unique perspective when working with diverse suppliers. I spent over a decade on the client side roles at both PG&E and SDG&E, where I had oversight of third-party vendors, including selecting suppliers through RFPs, managing their budgets and their performance delivery. I've also worked for very large prime contractors and program operators across the US in a sales role. And so I was responsible for securing the large contracts with utilities. So I've been on the sales side, pitching and securing those large multi-million-dollar contracts. I've had a very large portfolio working closely with diverse subcontractors and partners. And finally, at one point, I was a small business owner myself. So I had a California-based, minority-owned, veteran-owned certifications, and I was successful in securing federal contracts and work with utilities. I apologize for the noise. Over for the next few minutes, I'll cover some areas of focus that are important to consider, whether you're a small business, just working on your first contract with the utility, or if you have an existing business that you'd like to grow into this space. So let's go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to start with the basics. And some of this may seem elementary, but it's really important as you're growing your business that you focus on the basics. So as large companies, as large utilities, they're companies that serve millions of customers, and the California IOUs are focused on safety and efficiency. As a potential supplier, you have to be sure that your company is prepared and ready to move right into the contracts. So at minimum, you should always have an established business recognized by the California Secretary of State, including the required licenses and appropriate insurances and bondings. And again, this may seem pretty basic, but I've actually worked with vendors when I was at the utility who were ready to go and pretty, they're experts in their fields, but they were ill prepared to do business because they simply hadn't registered with the state, or they didn't have a city business license, or they didn't obtain their insurance. So just make sure those ducks are in a row before you move forward. Most importantly, you should have an established product or service with sales and customers. So Beza highlighted that certification only confirms that you're a diverse business. It does not necessarily qualify you to do business with the utilities. So the question you should consider is if your business is competitive without the diverse certifications. Are you able to compete in your own market and achieve your sales regardless of the certifications before you come into the utilities? Wayne mentioned that the importance of having a capability statement. So it's important that you can show past performance, even if it's unrelated to the utilities. So if you're a business that's offering construction transport services and you want to start working with the utilities, just have experience and past performance with other businesses or other industries doing that same service so they can show past performance. If you're pursuing business with the California utilities, make sure you obtain your certifications with the Clearinghouse. Sometimes you may have obtained your certification as a MBE or other certifications outside of that, but the utility specific, you have to be certified with the Clearinghouse. And then lastly, do you have the capital to sustain? This is a big deal. Sometimes with utilities, they're large companies. And so your initial contract may be, your first invoice may be net 30 or net 60. And so it'll be important that you have the capital to sustain any potential hiccups or delays in receiving the payment for the first invoice. So that'll be important. Next slide. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit here about client objectives. So now that you've had your certification and you have your past performance and you're ready to go into the utilities, there is tons of information and resources out there. It can be very overwhelming, especially if you don't have any experience with the utilities and this is the first time you're seeing some of the plans and so on. So where do you start? So this is where I start. So if you're in sales, the first rule of sales is to know your customer. So it'll be important to understand your client, your future client, the utility, and determine if your business objectives align with theirs. So you can start on their website, gain a better understanding of their supplier requirements. Some utilities will require you to register as a supplier within their own utility. So like PG&E or SCE might have their own register as a supplier here, and you can do that. So make sure you're certified in the appropriate areas to get the RFPs if that's the route that you're going. For example, so the PUC, the PUC Supplier Diversity annual plans, they file an annual procurement plan. Bezowitz shared it as well. There's a link that you can go to see all the supplier diversity plans. And in those plans, there's a tremendous amount of information and insight on how the utility intends to increase its diverse suppliers. It also has their performance towards those diversity goals and the amount of spending in each category. So this chart that I've included here is actually from Southern California Edison's annual plan. And so I've highlighted the categories of diverse business that represent less than 1% of Edison's total procurement spend. So the three red arrows that you see there, there's a very small percentage of minority female-owned businesses with only 0.78% African-American and 0.02% that are Native American. So if you're certified in either of those two categories, this would present an opportunity to work with Edison and to fill some of that, those areas there. In the plans, the annual procurement plans, the areas of spend is further broken down by SICs, so the standard industrial classifications, so you can see exactly which products and services they intend to spend for the next year and in what areas. So you can actually, look it up and see where your business falls in and if you align. SCE also highlights the specific enterprise areas that have low procurement spend overall. And for the next year, they have it highlighted as legal and financial services, insurance, advertising, and consulting. So that's an area where Edison is specifically focused on spending in the next few years. And I've highlighted the diverse businesses on which they are falling short of their goal. So if you were a woman or minority, if you're African-American or a Native American who provides any of those services, then Edison would be your target to try to look at how you can do business with that utility. Next slide, please. All right, so in building your network, so one of the best ways to get in the door is becoming a subcontractor to a prime. So where can you find them? So you can find a lot of contacts by just building your network. There are a lot of ways to find them. Throughout the year, there's always several diverse supplier workshops offered by large construction firms. I'm sure if you've registered as a diverse supplier, you've been notified of construction firms looking for diverse suppliers in your area or certain projects that need services. But right now, I'm going to focus on other ways to tap into some primes. So the California Energy Demand Side Management Council is actually a trade association of non-utility companies that provide energy efficiency and demand response and data analytics products and services in California. So basically, it's a trade association of the primes that offer services to the utilities that aren't necessarily electric and gas construction specific services. You can view their member list of organizations, and their member list of organizations is probably about 200 or 300 strong now. And all of those organizations would be considered large primes. They offer energy efficiency services, whether that be any kind of audits, it could be construction as far as like lighting projects and things like that. But they provide those solutions to on a national level. So they do hundreds of millions of dollars of work in the state of California, and they are required to have diverse subcontractors to support their efforts. So if you're looking for a new list of primes to network into, that would be a good organization to tap into. You can always reach out to the utilities prime contractors. Some utilities actually post contact information for their primes. For example, Pacific Gas and Electric has a list of safety qualified contractors posted on their website. These are vendors that have been qualified to operate safely in their service territory. And there's an Excel spreadsheet with company names and phone numbers, which I've linked at the end of my presentation. You can get connected to business associations that are related to your certifications. This could be the Hispanic Chamber or the Association of Energy Engineers. I've highlighted the Veterans in Business Network. Obviously, I'm a veteran, so that'll be the organization that I highlight. And they work closely with the California investor-owned utilities with frequent events. They actually have a national conference coming up here, I believe in September. And they also have an online RFP board as well, a post board for any kind of proposals and procurement opportunities. And then lastly, the biggest resource, if you are a diverse supplier coming into this work, is to reach out to your fellow diverse businesses. The Supplier Clearinghouse database is open and public. You can actually do a search and find like businesses, whether it's complementary services for you with your business that you provide, and see if you guys can support each other or work together to secure business. So if you are, again, a transport company and there's another company who does maintenance or any kind of tree removal or tree care, you can work together as two diverse businesses and try to see if you can procure a larger opportunity for you both. Next slide. All right, so growing your performance history, I've highlighted 5 steps there that I'll go through very quickly. So number 1, start small and build trust. So focus on your core services and your offerings to smaller utilities in your area. We tend to focus on the investor-owned utilities, which are the big 3, right? PG&E, SCE, and SDG&E, and of course the municipals, SMUD and LAWP. But there are a lot of other smaller utilities in the area. So you have municipal utilities, you have CCAs, and you have others like MCE here that you can start here and grow local. So then you can grow into more locales once you start to do business in the local region. And number 2, gain experience as a subcontractor to utility prime. This offers an opportunity to work with multiple utilities under the umbrella of a larger company and then expand, through their support with multiple contracts or multiple opportunities within one umbrella. The contract sizes in subcontracting can be significant. I think sometimes when we enter into this, we think that being a sub means less money, when in reality, I've seen subcontractor contracts in the millions. So it's really a matter of perspective and what you can provide long-term. Number 3, strengthen your competencies. Make sure you incorporate things like automation into your services and streamline your processes. So what, and then eventually lower your overall costs so you can increase your own margin. If your business isn't able to scale quickly because of manual processes, that is going to delay your ability to scale with the utilities at a larger level. Number 4, grow with clients and expand your services. Some utilities are quite large. They handle 3/4 of the state, they have multiple counties, multiple cities. And so you need to be able to, can your services, provide offerings to multiple departments, maybe within the same utility, or even at a contract value that doesn't require competitive bid. And so, for example, if you're offering a service that's under 100,000, most utilities will have some sort of process that has a sole source opportunity, especially if you're a diverse business. Some do not. Some offer just through the RFP process, but it's important to know that and figure out how to grow within that client base. It's a lot easier to have a master service agreement and add multiple scopes than to get multiple initial contracts. So it's just something to consider. And then lastly, replicate and scale. You sell one service to one company in one region, and then you sell one service to multiple companies in one region, and then you sell more than one service to multiple companies in multiple regions. So I guess the goal of that is just bullseye, right? Start small and then grow in your surrounding areas before you can really go after the larger utility contracts on a statewide level. I've highlighted here a company called Circlewood. They were highlighted in Edison's annual report. And last year during the Hispanic Heritage Month, they were honored as a small business for their efforts to support Latin American communities. Circlewood received SCE's Diversity Award for its work as a diverse enterprise, as more than half of their employees are people of color. And I think the important part here to highlight for this company is the fact that just a few years ago, they only had only 4 employees in 2007. And with their work with Edison, they've now grown to over 125 people. So if you just think about just the way you can expand working with utilities and really growing your business. Next slide. So we've covered a lot of the information here already, but just to recap. So again, looking at scale, utilities have large service territories. If you're offering a service or a business, make sure you're talking to the utilities in the way they want to hear it. Meaning, if I'm SDG&E and I handle, the entire county of San Diego, but you're offering services in only one city in that county, it may not be a good fit, because we'll have to, as a utility, we want to have a vendor that can provide services to all of our service territory. Lead time. You have to ask yourself, can you hit the ground running today with the right personnel and processes in place to deliver on time and within budget all the time? Risk management. Can you ramp up quickly? Do you have the capital to deliver consistently without interruptions? This is a big deal, even more so now with COVID. In the PUC's en banc presentation from 2019, the utilities highlighted that a big program challenge was diverse businesses lacking risk management and redundancy plans. And that was causing havoc for their ability to hire more diverse businesses. Because if you're hired to deliver a contract and something happens and there's an emergency or whatever, and you no longer can deliver, there's a disruption and a ripple that affects their entire portfolio. Continuity plans. Do you have a standard operating procedure and a redundancy plan in the event of emergency? Do you have a detailed documented plan to ensure consistent delivery and overcome any unforeseen barriers? And then the final big piece, which I think is pretty prevalent now, is security requirements. Utilities are risk adverse, and you have to adhere to physical security and data security requirements. This can cover things like employee background checks, financial controls, data storage, or even field operations. And are you prepared in the event of a cybersecurity incident? Do you have that documented, what your plan is going forward? And sometimes we think as a small business who's offering a very small service that it doesn't matter, but as much as maybe a larger company would. But working with utilities, you always have to remember that a lot of the funding comes from public funds. There are rate-based type of funding sometimes. And so every dollar spent has to be accounted for and confirmed that it was delivered in the proper way. So just something to keep in mind. And next slide, please. And so in closing, I covered quite a bit of information. I talk very, very fast, but I always include hyperlinks to the things that I've covered today. So pretty much everything I've talked about, including the supplier diversity annual plans and the stuff from Edison's plan, as well as the California Demand Side Management Council, all those hyperlinks are there and available for your use. I am always available for any questions, concerns. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Happy to set time if you'd like to have further discussion. And with that, I will close. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. I'm so honored to have all of you here again. Our expert panel of speakers teaches me something new every time I speak with them. So Thank you. And we have some great questions in the chat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start to get to those. And as a reminder, you can put more questions in the chat anonymously or with your name. And you can also raise your hand with that icon and we can call on you so that you can ask your question aloud if that is easier. One of the first questions that we got was about out-of-state businesses. And I think the answer to this is no, but Bezoit, would you be able to confirm for this question? I'll read it one more time. Are out-of-state businesses that are registered as a foreign LLC with the California Secretary of State eligible to be certified?
Yes, they are. But for DGS, Wayne can elaborate on that one. For the DGS certification, yes, it is California. But for the supplier clearinghouse, where you are doesn't matter. The diverse status is the one thing that they're going to look into.
And this is Wayne for DGS. The headquarters has to be in California. This is a California-run program.
Alrighty, so for small and disabled DVBEs, they would need to be headquartered in California, but otherwise, please go ahead. Did I get that right?
Yes, Caroline, you're right. There's that caveat. Yes, for DVBE, they have to be domiciled in California, but for
all other ones.
Yeah, but for the other diverse status, no.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we also have a question just confirming how long it can expect to take. I know some certifications can take a lot longer than others. So what's the timeline that we're seeing right now, typically Bezoit, with certification? Has it gotten longer during COVID as well?
Not to my knowledge. I think it's still pretty much 4 weeks. But the timeline might increase depending on, if there's any hiccup in the process, if documents are not submitted, or if they need to do a site visit, it might extend. But for the most part, it will take around 4 weeks, even less sometimes.
That's great. I think it all comes down to planning and making sure you have all of the required components of the application in hand. And again, we will be sharing with you some resources to ensure that you have all that information. And we encourage you, if you're not certified, to check out the CPUC's website as well to see, just get a sense and get started.
If I can add my 2 cents with the state. With small business, you fill out the application and hit submit. 99% of the time you get congratulations, you are certified. If, with the disabled veteran portion, you will not, because we have to manually look at your application. But here again, with both of them, if you don't get certified because of timeframes, et cetera, you can ask for an expedite. And once that happens, usually within 24 to 48 hours, a certification officer will get with you and you get you certified immediately so that you can bid on something, let's say, it's going to close in 2 weeks, and you need your certification.
Gotcha. Thank you, Wayne. And Teresa, how about you can go ahead and get to this question in case you can't see it. Somebody asked, thank you for this great information. And what is one thing that you wish you knew about the Supplier Diversity Program when you first started working with the program?
I think this is a great question. I think that the number one thing I wish I knew at the time, because I was a new company, I had just started, this whole world was new to me at the time. I wish I knew that within the utilities, because they're so large, sometimes the supplier diversity groups don't interact with the rest of the enterprise. So you still have to be a business seeking business. So you still have to know your customers. So for example, I provided construction services and outreach services for different programs, but I was engaged with or interacted with utility people on the program side. So I knew them. So I was able to leverage those relationships before the RFPs came out and so on. But the supplier diversity, there was no supplier requirement within the utility for those contracts. So there wasn't, discussion back and forth internally. So I had to make contacts with the supplier diversity people and with the business people who would be procuring my service. And once I did that, it was it was very simple to get more business and more contracts and grow because I was already, with the master service agreement, which the supplier diversity people helped me get with the utility. And then I just added scopes all over the utilities and just kept growing and growing and growing and grew from there. So I wish I had knew that it wasn't enough to stay engaged with the supplier diversity groups, but that you had to actually understand the business as a business and know what they were procuring. Because the supplier diversity people were great. They were great in trying to find opportunities, but they're handling a lot for a very large company. And sometimes it's only 1 or 2 people on that side. And so you really have to help them help you. So it's like, hi, supplier diversity person, I worked with so-and-so in field management, construction, and I can provide tree service, services for them. And here is all my certifications. And can we sole source this? Do we have to go competitive bid? How do I get that in? And so on. And that was having that 2-prong approach really moved things much faster than just being registered, getting the certifications and kind of waiting for an opportunity to come up.
Got it. Thank you, Teresa. And some other questions we have, which we can answer now. What industries are the most in need of more diverse suppliers? I think Teresa talked a little bit about that, but any other guidance on which businesses maybe you wouldn't think to get certified, but actually are definitely in need of diversity and just suppliers in general?
I'm not with the utilities anymore, but I can tell you, traffic control is always a big, big deal. I don't know why, but there's not a lot of diverse suppliers in those areas.
Yeah, maybe we can switch those men working signs that sometimes I see to be a little more gender inclusive. We have a question for Bezoit from Joseph. I saw some voluntary goals / thresholds. Can you explain this, what this was once more?
Say that again.
This person saw voluntary goals and thresholds in the presentation. Could you clarify what these goals or thresholds are?
Oh, okay. Those goals are just voluntary, like a benchmark that we suggest to utilities and CCAs and all those entities that participate in the program to meet that goal at a minimum. We expect them to exceed, but at the minimum, we want to see them procure that amount, that percentage from those diverse businesses. I hope that explains it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think some industries or some identity factors, I guess, there's also still we're still increasing, our certification levels, like LGBT businesses. There's not yet a threshold. Is that right?
We just established one in April, and the threshold for 2022 is 0.5%. And it will increase the next year, and finally will end at, it will be 1.5 in 2024. Currently, it's difficult for utilities to find LGBT businesses. They're doing their best, and so if there is anyone that qualifies to be an LGBT business, this is your moment. Utilities and other entities are looking to doing business with you.
Thank you. Another question we have is about information on the SLP. Bezoit, do you have any knowledge of this? Or, yeah, I'm really sorry. I don't know what SLP stands for.
Yeah.
If the speaker wants to come off mute or request to be off mute and expand, we would love to take a stab at it.
Teresa, do you know what SLP stands for?
No, I mentioned SOP, which was standard operating procedures, but I didn't see SLP.
Utilities and the community choice aggregators, I think, are known for our many acronyms. So, sometimes I learn a new one like every week, and, I'll hopefully figure out what this one is after at least the presentation. I think another.
I know that.
Oh,
I say I know SLP1 is software licensing program.
Yeah, there's a few.
That's a good one, Wayne.
Yeah, because the state has that.
Yeah, but in all this conversation, let's not,
Yeah.
contracting with the state as well. it does procure over 12 billion, right, Wayne?
12 billion, that's correct.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, PUC is also a state agency, and we also have a small business, disabled veteran-owned business, disabled DVBE program as well. And Wayne mentioned that each agency has a small business advocate, and for the commission, I am the small business advocate on the state side, so just keep that in mind.
Thanks. Unless we have any other questions, I think one idea and conversation that we can end this event at, before, and then after that, I'll get to one more question for Teresa. If you can speak to just the importance of diversity and having certified businesses in the larger groups in the larger goals of equity, especially in these industries, and just broader goals of, equity and how that relates to diversity.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the time when I had my small business, it was 2009. And so I think I was a little bit ahead of the curve way back when. This was during the housing crisis, was not the best time to be in business. But I think now there's still it's important to have the supplier diversity goals and to have this equitable representation with businesses. I think a lot of being on the other side of the industry, I see a lot of the same primes over and over going after business, and mostly it's default. It really isn't necessarily that there aren't other businesses. It's just that once they're there, they kind of stay, which goes to the longevity of the utilities as a whole. So in order to get more of the share, the pie is infinite, right? So to get more of the share, the presence of more suppliers that are diverse, the repetitive, past performance and so on, really helps for the entire industry. I think there are a lot of just different ways of doing business that those voices need to be there at the table having those conversations. I spent 20 years in the utility, and I can name dozens of meetings that I went to where I was the only person of color, let alone the only woman at the table. And so I think it's always important to have that representation and to be heard about what's needed. At Veteran Launch, which is the CDFI that I'm on the board for, we give loans to veteran-owned businesses in California specifically to help provide that capital to move them forward to be able to compete on a national scale, right? So it's more than just the local business, it's the longevity and the legacy that it leaves.
Yeah, I think this is a big opportunity for more diversity and recognizable quantitative diversity metrics. And this is a really huge clearinghouse that we're sharing information about that relates to not just CCAs like MCE, not just energy, but all utilities in the state. And so I thank you for giving that perspective, Teresa. Wayne, would you like to go ahead? Please, can you add anything?
Yeah.
Wayne, go ahead.
I was going to say, I got a question about where the advocate list is on our website. And the easiest way to do it is go to our website, www.caliprocure.ca.gov. Scroll down, and there are 4 squares. The bottom right one is training and resources. Click it. There are 7 headings. You want the 5th heading, research and marketing. And the second bullet says, contact a small business and DVBE advocate. It will take you to the directory, and you just click on it, and it opens up an Excel spreadsheet with all of that information that you need.
Perfect. Hopefully you guys are able to follow that, and you can check out the link to learn more, and you can also watch the recording again or ask another question if you didn't catch that. Yeah, and going back to just also just general diversity and inclusion goals. Did you have something, Basilwit?
Oh, I don't have much to add. Teresa covered it all, but yeah, with the supplier diversity program, of course, we're trying to make the economy more inclusive, and when it's more inclusive, it operates better, right? And everyone will have a better standard of living, and also we'll be able to reflect the many views that are in California as well. But I wanted to add another piece of information. It's the legislature wants community choice aggregators not only to procure from diverse businesses, but also encourages them to procure from small businesses. And Caroline, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you do use DGS's certification, right, for small business to identify small businesses?
Yeah, I saw someone ask that. Small businesses aren't automatically considered part of diversity, but we recognize every individual is bringing something new to the table, especially if they're bringing their local knowledge. So we definitely look to that and report on that.
And they report on that in their
Yeah.
report as well. So something that we consider as well. So in light of that, working with the CCA's DGS certification may be important in, and to consider in your future opportunities.
If I can add one more point about the importance of just supplier diversity in general. And I mentioned it on Edison's highlight of Circlewood, that, you know, a majority of their employees are Hispanic or minority. And I think that's the key factor. Diverse businesses tend to hire more diverse people. So it's not just the diversity of businesses being contracted, it's who they're employing. So I know for veterans, we tend to hire more veterans, right? It goes with the territory. So I think it's that ripple effect that really needs to be focused on as well.
May I add something?
Yes, please.
Yes. We had a new position created, and my former big boss is now the statewide diversity manager for the state. And so if you would mark your calendars, November 16th, especially for you, BZ, November 16th, DGS is going to have a diversity program expo here in Sacramento, and on diversity. It's highlighting, you know, all the people that we're talking to today. So mark your calendars, November 16th. There's going to be exhibiting and matchmaking.
Very exciting to hear about diversity at all levels, including especially in leadership, and that's just we're having more conversations about just all the types of diversity that we can have and different identity factors. We have one more question that I see now about food services. Can businesses with utility contracts receive diversity credit by ordering food from certified diverse food vendors? Bezwa, can you go ahead and confirm this one?
Yes, the utilities procure almost everything, but that does not apply for state agencies. State agencies are not allowed to procure, well, at least the commission is not allowed to procure food. Yeah, but maybe CC corrections and rehabilitation, right, Wayne? If I'm not mistaken, there are some agencies that procure food.
Oh, yes, yes. The state hospitals, Calvet homes, and the CDCR. They all do.
Yes, so catering companies, and especially if you're scaling up and you're ready to deliver on your, you know, wonderful food, you're definitely have some benefits to certifying.
Yeah, you have to realize the state has 35 prisons throughout the state. So if you want to, you know, get a little piece of the action, find out which prison is near you and start there.
Sure, yeah, there's tons of resources.
Or hospital.
Hospitals as well.
Or the hospitals too, yes.
Okay, well, if we can move on to the last slide then, hearing no other questions. You are welcome to follow up with me or any of our speakers whose emails we put in the chat, and we'll be following up with you via email that you provided if you registered to attend. We're so excited to have you here, and excited to see you again next year with some new and updated information. Thank you everyone again for being here. Okay, take care.